My name is Sand, and I am a taxi driver, navigating the dimly lit streets of Athens with a weathered familiarity. I'd spent countless nights behind the wheel, ferrying passengers to their destinations. The city's secrets whispered to me as I cruised through the darkness, each fare bringing its own stories and encounters. With a salt and peppered beard framing my face, and tired eyes that held a glimmer of curiosity, I'd seen it all. From the mundane to the bizarre, the ordinary to the extraordinary, my taxi had become a sanctuary of confessions and fleeting connections. Some passengers sought solace, others shared their joys, but it was those who brought a hint of mystery that intrigued me the most. Little did I know that on this particular night, my journey would take an unexpected turn into the realm of the unexplained. The events that would unfold would test my courage and sanity, pushing me to confront a darkness I had never imagined existed. It was a moonless night, and the city streets were eerily quiet as I drove my taxi through the dimly lit roads. As a seasoned taxi driver, I'd encountered my fair share of strange passengers, but tonight was different. Tonight, I would experience a series of events that would send chills racing through my veins. It started with a simple request for pickup from a desolate neighborhood in Athens. The voice on the phone was hushed, almost whispered, but I paid it no mind and headed towards the address given. As I arrived, I couldn't help but notice the dilapidated house that stood in front of me. Its windows were boarded up, and an unsettling aura hung in the air. A figure emerged from the shadows, dressed in tattered clothes. The passenger's face was hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, casting a sinister shadow. Ignoring my instincts, I unlocked the doors, and the stranger slipped into the back seat without a word. The atmosphere in the taxi grew heavy as we drove through the empty streets. The passenger remained silent. His presence was frightening, and an evil energy felt inside the taxi. Glancing at the rearview mirror, I noticed his eyes, or lack thereof. Two empty sockets stared back at me, devoid of life. My heart raced, but I maintained my composure, focusing on the road ahead. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life, emitting a distorted voice that chilled me to the core. It whispered words of impending doom and unspeakable horrors, causing my hands to tremble on the steering wheel. I tried to ignore the eerie broadcast, concentrating on the task at hand. But then, the passenger leaned forward, his icy breath grazing my neck. His voice, a mere whisper, carried an otherworldly tone as he spoke. "Take me to the abandoned asylum on the outskirts of town." Every fiber of my being screamed against it, but I couldn't refuse. The atmosphere grew even more suffocating as we arrived at the asylum, its walls covered in graffiti and its windows shattered. The passenger exited the taxi, disappearing into the darkness. Fear gripped me as I sat alone in the taxi, contemplating my next move. Before I could make a decision, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night air. It echoed through the empty corridors of the asylum, sending tremors down my spine. Without a second thought, I sped away from the asylum, my mind racing with terror. The radio crackled again, but this time the voice was different. It spoke with a menacing tone, assuring me that I was being watched and that I could never escape the horrors I had witnessed. Days turned into nights, and nights into weeks, but the horrors I had encountered that night haunted my every waking moment. Sleep eluded me, replaced by nightmares filled with the ghastly passenger and the abandoned asylum. One evening, as I walked the empty streets of Athens alone, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing in the shadows, the unmistakable wide-brimmed hat. Panic surged through my veins as I quickened my pace, desperate to escape this never-ending nightmare. But no matter how fast I ran, the figure stayed just behind me, a constant presence lurking in the darkness. I sought solace in research, delving into the history of the asylum and the stories of its tormented past. The tales spoke of lost souls and unspeakable atrocities, fueling my sense of unease. The more I learned, the deeper the darkness seemed to seep into my being. In the end, I couldn't find answers. The entity that had entered my life remained a mystery, its intentions unknown. Was it a vengeful spirit seeking retribution for the past? Or perhaps a malevolent force lingering in the abandoned asylum, waiting to claim its next victim? I still drive my taxi through the Athens city streets, but the memory of that fateful night lingers. The thought of the entity's presence keeps me on edge, forever glancing in the rearview mirror, anticipating its reappearance. Perhaps there are some mysteries that are not meant to be solved, some horrors that are destined to remain unresolved. As I continue my nocturnal journeys, I can't help but wonder if the entity still lingers in the shadows, waiting for its next opportunity to strike.